Good evening, and thank you for attending. My name is Deborah Exner, and I will be the moderator for this evening's candidate debate. The Citizens Clean Election Commission is the sponsor for this evening's event. The Clean Elections Act is a campaign finance reform measure initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. Participation as a clean elections candidate is strictly voluntary. The system provides full funding for qualified candidates who agree to abide by the Clean Elections Act and rules. To qualify for funding, participating candidates must illustrate the support of their constituents by gathering $5 qualifying contributions from registered voters in their legislative district. The candidates agree to adhere by the contribution and spending limits and may not accept money from special interest groups. They also agree to participate in these debates. As we move into the debate, we encourage audience questions. If you have questions, please print them clearly on the card given to you when you entered, and then hold them up. One of our volunteers will pick up the cards and deliver them to me. We screen questions for clarity to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. If you need another card, just raise your hand. The debate is scheduled for 1 hour, so we may not get to all of the questions, but we will do our very best. There is an independent timer who will see that all the candidates have equal time and to answer questions, and will tell them when their time is up by raising the card. Our format tonight will be opening statements for 3 minutes, a quick lightning round, 2 minutes to answer audience questions, and closing statements for 3 minutes. Since there are no opponents here today, we will skip the candidate-to-candidate questions. We ask that you remain polite to all of the candidates and give them a fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how strongly you may agree or disagree with anything being said. This means no applause, outbursts, or cheers, except when we introduce the candidates. This is especially important as closed captioning services will be made available after the debate for those individuals that are hearing impaired. As such, I will refer to each candidate by full name prior to each question and ask that the candidates speak clearly into their microphone. So for this evening's debate, we have Ms. Kristie O'Brien, Democrat, running for state senator, and Ms. Danielle Lee, Democrat, running for state representatives and a clean elections participant. The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name, starting with the Senate, and will progress from that starting point. The closing order will be determined by reverse alphabetical order. So, Ms. Kristie O'Brien, will you start with the opening remarks, please?
Certainly. Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank Clean Elections for allowing us the opportunity to have this forum, especially as a non-participating candidate. I think it's important that our district have the opportunity to hear from their candidates, and this, unfortunately, is the only forum that we will have this election cycle. So I want to thank you for being in attendance this evening, and I want to thank the viewers who will watch online. So I am your candidate for the Arizona State Senate, or one of your candidates. As you will see, my opponent did not care to join us today, and I am disappointed as I was looking forward to the candidate-to-candidate questioning, as I hope that most of you were as well. Once again, Senator Yarborough has let us down in not allowing us the opportunity to speak with him or to acknowledge his constituency. To date, I have not met one constituent, regardless of party affiliation, who's had a telephone call returned or who has had a meeting granted at the Capitol. I, however, believe in a representative government and a government by the people for the people, and I don't understand how you can represent a community if you do not talk to the community. So I look forward to answering your questions this evening. I am a native Arizonan. I'm born and raised in the East Valley. I grew up right here in Arizona in Chandler, down the street. So I'm excited to serve our community. I think that as a native Arizonan and a Chandler resident, I understand our needs, our struggles, our triumphs, and what we need to be represented down at the Arizona legislature. I am looking forward to having government accountability. Unfortunately, our current state senator uses his office to profit from the Arizona taxpayer. I think he is unworthy to be the ethics chair, and I would like to ensure that every taxpayer dollar from hardworking Arizonans goes to taxpayer interests, not lining the pockets of our representatives. Therefore, I'm looking for the opportunity to be able to pass some comprehensive ethics reform to definitely refund our public education and to combat a lot of the other problems that right now are not getting solutions because we're stuck in this ideological warfare. We need that bipartisanship. So I look forward to representing us, whether we have a D, an I, or an R next to our name. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming to share this really exciting opportunity with me. I would like to thank Kristie for joining us today because she didn't have to. And if she didn't, I would be here by myself and it would be pretty boring. I know you guys don't want to hear me talk for an hour. So thank you. I would also like to thank the Clean Elections Commission for giving candidates like myself the opportunity that I would not otherwise have had. A special thank you to my fiance Cedric and Ayana, who have been on this roller coaster ride with me the entire time. We've kind of promised not to kill each other through this situation. So there are a few points that I want to make tonight. The first of which is that as someone who is not a native Arizonan, it took me less than a year to realize that the state needs some major attention. Instead of writing useless legislation that would prohibit atheists from graduating high school, or legislation that addresses problems that do not exist, like revenge porn, our representatives should have been figuring out how they are going to pay our schools and our students their $300 million that they owe them. They should have been working to create policy that will proactively protect Arizona's veterans instead of waiting until they are homeless and place the burden on the taxpayers. Our representatives should have been preparing Arizona for the future instead of trying to take us back to the early 1900s. So as a representative of District 17 and of Arizona, I plan to do exactly that, to pay attention to the things that matter, pay attention to the needs of the citizens, and do my darndest to make sure that those issues are resolved. Thank you for being here with me today, and I look forward to representing you in the future.
Thank you. In an attempt to lighten the mood for tonight's debate, we're going to do a quick lightning round of this or that. This will allow us to get to know the candidates a little bit more. Please answer with just one word. And we'll start with Ms. Danielle Lee. Droid, iPhone, or Windows?
Droid.
Okay. And Ms. Kristie O'Brien, sorry. CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC?
CNN.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move into the actual debate questions. Ms. Kristie O'Brien, what should the state of Arizona do to ensure that our veterans have health care and jobs?
Well, as we saw, this is a problem that has been decades in the making, and unfortunately, earlier this year, we saw that culminate with a scandal that was based right here in our state. We need to, as a state, give the federal government, when they are reorganizing and fixing the Veterans Affairs, we need to make sure that we can fill in those stop gaps where we have the state ability to do that. So usually this is a problem that's handled at the federal level, but we do have programs that can fill in those failures that are met. So whether it's social programs, with the healthcare, with the homelessness, Mayor Stanton in Phoenix has done an excellent job trying to find housing for our homeless veterans. That is a program I would love to see expanded to Chandler and to LD17.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee. The same question. What should the state of Arizona do to ensure our veterans have health care and jobs?
The first thing they should do is create preventative and proactive programs to acknowledge that we have every year an influx of veterans, service members turning into veterans. So we need to have programs before they turn into veterans that show them the resources, give them the tools that they need to find adequate employment, to find adequate places to live. And as far as healthcare is concerned, that is also something that can be proactively taken care of. As a service member, before you are a veteran, you get a certain amount of healthcare that you are given before you're a veteran. These benefits should be extended to them as they are veterans, and the resources that provide that health care should be available. The veterans should know where exactly to go to get these benefits instead of being left out, left stranded, and not knowing where to go and who to turn to.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien, please identify what you consider to be the most pressing issue in your district and how you will address it if elected.
The most pressing issue is definitely right now with refunding the public education. We have teachers in our district that are underpaid, that are barely making a livable wage, that we have students that are not getting the per student funding. We are the lowest ranked towards the bottom in the nation. We have to give those educators the tools necessary to ensure that our A-plus schools remain A-plus schools. That is the most pressing issue at the doors when I talk to veterans. When I talk to voters, because they really feel that we have the future generation to look out for. They can't vote. We have to vote on their behalf, and we need to make sure that they will have the same opportunities that we have had, and that is making sure that they get a quality, world-class education.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee.
As Kristie mentioned, the most important issue our district is facing is education. Number one, because our opponents who did not show up today, their interests are not in, they do not have an interest in public education. Public education is one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest forces that brings communities together. And without it, it affects every part of a community. So parents need to know that they are safe in sending their kids to a quality public school and not one that is underfunded, one where the roof is leaking, one where the books are out of date. They need to know that the funding that their kids deserve is there to help them move forward and to compete with students around the state. Another issue with education is that there is this huge focus on private institutions that are not required to have certain standards. And worst case scenario, a student goes to a certain private school and their high school diploma is not accredited by the state, and they do not get to attend the university of their choice, and it affects their future. So us not paying attention to public education can affect us as a district, as a state, long-term, and we need to fix the issues there.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee, what are your thoughts on the Religious Freedom Bill, SB 1062?
SB 1062 is a bill that, if I were a state legislator, I would not have written myself. I believe that any person who takes their own beliefs and tries to impose them on anyone, whether it's an individual, whether it's a larger group of people, I think it's wrong. And for a group of people who are managing the state of Arizona to create legislation that has the potential, just the potential to exclude a group of people, whether it be a certain religious group, whether it be women, whether it be the gay and lesbian community. If it has the potential to hurt a certain group of people, I think that it is wrong. And I think our state legislature was wrong for creating this type of legislation, for trying to create this type of legislation.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Thank you for that question. So my opponent, who is not with us this evening, Senator Yarbrough, was the primary sponsor of SB 1062, and this is probably the most differentiating issue between us. While he is on the side that we should become an Arizona where a large number of our community is not welcome at different establishments, I feel very much the opposite, that this was a bill that no one asked for, that no one needed, yet he felt the need to spend his time in the legislature putting this forward because he serves special interest, not ours. This bill put at risk $1 billion from our economy at a time when we are hinging on economic recovery. Every penny counts, yet he was willing to put that at risk. We almost lost the Super Bowl. We have lost companies that wanted to come to our state. We have the tech industry in our own backyard that was profoundly against this bill. All the major chambers of commerce, both GOP state senators, our U.S. senators, as well as vetoed ultimately by our GOP governor. He is therefore not even listening to his own party. I believe that Arizona does not need these bills that are focused on tearing us apart, but rather focus on ways we can all come together and accept us for who we are, Arizonans first and foremost.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien, what are your views on ethics reform?
Well, my opponent happens to be the ethics chair, and I believe that each and every legislator should be held accountable for their unethical behavior, and that includes disclosing any conflicts of interest or any self-dealing, anything that they may profit off of their own legislation. They need to let us know as stewards of our taxpayer dollars. Unfortunately, since he is chair of the Ethics Committee, whenever anyone tries to put forward some ethics reform, like the Yarbrough Disclosure Act, he can kill it in his own committee. Therefore, we are still lacking that oversight to know when our legislators are personally profiting from their legislation. That is the exact definition of unethical. So with regards to reform, I would like to put forward that we have to have disclosures, that we have to end the self-dealing, that we hold our legislators to a higher standard, that we make sure that there is an independent ethics commission that is nonpartisan, that can hold them accountable when there are breaches of our trust. So I look forward to having that be one of my priorities next session.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee?
As far as ethics are concerned, I think anything that our state legislature is attempting to do, any legislature being written, anything being put forward, should be open, should be transparent. Ethics reform means that any legislation put forward needs to be clear. We need to understand what is in that legislation, who are the writers of that legislation, who are the individuals behind it backing the legislation, and we need to hold each individual accountable for that legislation and anything that they're putting forward, because it matters in the large scheme of things. If they are not transparent and we don't know what they're doing, then the taxpayers, the individuals in the district, are going to be subject to whatever reactions come from that legislation. We need first more open-minded individuals in our state legislature. We need more individuals who are willing to work across the aisle, who are willing to be open and honest with their intentions. And I think we need more of that in our state legislature, which will eventually lead to legislation that is clear and that our constituents know exactly what they're getting.
Thank you. And I will remind the audience, if you have questions that you'd like to have asked, write them on the index card you have and hold them up, and someone will collect them and bring them to me. So, Ms. Danielle Lee, next question is, what role does the state have when it comes to immigration and protection of the border?
The state of Arizona has a huge role when it comes to immigration in our border, mainly because a large portion of the border is right on our doorstep. Because of this, we need to have immigration reform that encourages individuals who are willing to be honest and open about their intentions coming to our country. We need to be willing to have a streamlined process to help them do that. We need to have legislation, peoples in our state legislature who are willing to have that conversation and who are willing to encourage those individuals who are coming to come across and help us with our economy, to find jobs that they can use, jobs to help boost Arizona's economy. I think our state legislature's job is very important when it comes to immigration reform. And I think we should be open to change and open to fixing, like I said, that streamlined process to helping individuals come across and boost Arizona's economy.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Similarly to what Danielle just said, I do believe that the federal government needs to put forward some comprehensive immigration reform. Since immigration is a federal obligation, as a state legislator at the Senate, it won't necessarily directly fall within our purview, but we will have the ability to support any of the federal gaps that are, whether there's extra things that we can do at the state level to aid in protecting our border. Of course, it is a primary focus for us since we are a border state. We want to have our borders secured for national security purposes, but we also need to make sure that we don't tread on different roles and the federal government plays with our border agents. So we definitely need to make sure that all the players are playing their part and that we each can collectively make sure that we do the best for Arizona and for the United States.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien, the next question is, how will you restore funding to the public schools in Arizona?
Great. Well, we have this litigation that's been going on, and that is been decided that we owe $317 million plus interest on what voters had determined to be the formula for funding of our public education a number of years ago. The state legislature, however, chose to do their own formula, ignoring the will of the voters. So it has been decided that the state does owe our K through 12 public education system this back money. This is going to be a budget line item for a number of years to come, and the interest is most likely going to carry on for perpetuity. Therefore, we are going to be at a critical budget issue next year on where that will come from. We have a rainy day fund right now that has about $434 million in it, so we will be able to cover our first year due right off the top. I think that that's definitely our first solution without having to worry about other programs. Going forward, I am a supporter of negotiating on the interest owed. Most of the schools are just looking to get their proper funding, and we can have amicable negotiations regarding the interest.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee.
It would be naive to say that all the funding that our schools are owed would be given to them. It goes a decade or more back, the funding that they are owed. So, like Kristie mentioned, as a state legislator, I would be willing to discuss the interest and come up with a number that would be sufficient for what our public schools need. Public education, at the very core, has a long-term effect on our community. It strengthens the community. It encourages long-term job growth. It has to be a priority. And there are some things that are itemized in the state budget that are not a priority. And those things need to be looked at and discussed. And we need to make sure that education is a priority, and to make sure that the long-term success of our district and our state is encouraged by making sure that our students from the very beginning have the proper education, have the proper tools, have everything they need to grow and develop into citizens or residents of our district and stay here and create a better economy. So as a state legislator, like I said, the things that are itemized in our state budget need to be reevaluated and make sure that education is a priority.
Thank you. How do you propose to improve the job climate in our state? Ms. Danielle Lee.
The first thing I would do is make sure, as a state legislator, to make sure we're not creating legislation that scares people away, that scares outside companies away. Information technology is huge in the country, let alone in Arizona. These companies want to come to Arizona and branch out and help us make our economy better. That's the first thing we need to do, is just make sure that we're not scaring these corporations and companies away. The second thing is education, like I said. If we support education at the core, it increases the chances of students creating more jobs, being innovative, and attracting those higher paying jobs, and like I said, sustaining our state and our district.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Well, first and foremost, we have to undo the damage that has been done to our business reputation. Every time one of these controversial bills that garnishes the negative national attention on our state, we do lose these employers that were planning on doing business here, and they pull out and we end up losing jobs. We most recently lost the Tesla battery plant, and that was going to bring 6,000 jobs. So now we are looking at ways where we have to try to engage the business community to let them know that Arizona is open for business, that we are a strong place to be able to raise your family. We have excellent schools. And so these go hand in hand with our other issues on public education funding. When employers are looking for communities to put their businesses, they want to make sure that there's the infrastructure. They want to make sure that there's the strong K through 12 public schools. With regards to our higher education in Arizona, we lose more millennials despite our excellent schools because of the jobs. So we need to figure out private-public partnerships to get them to be able to stay here in Arizona. We deserve to have it be a place where you can prosper from cradle to grave, and that means that they can have their jobs here and raise their families here. And I also just want to say that here in our own backyard, with the innovation and the technology industry as the lifeline of this district, we need to ensure that it remains the shining star of our state. We need to give those businesses the resources that they need to succeed and stay in Arizona, at the same time while allowing our community to remain employed there. So I would look forward to working with all of the
Thank you.
stakeholders.
Next question is, if you are elected, will you fight for the right of Dreamers to get driver's licenses? And we'll start with Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
So I believe that driver's licenses are an issue of public safety. I think that we want to encourage all of our drivers on the road to be properly licensed, and that I would include Dreamers in that. While people are in this state, we deserve to know who they are and where they are. And one of the excellent benefits of having a driver's license is that we would know just that. We would know where they are and who they are. I think that's important for public safety on our roads. I think that when someone is very concerned that they can be pulled over at any time, that they may be arrested at any time, that has also led to some different incidences we've had on our highways. So I would be a proponent in favor of issuing driver's license to Dreamers.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee.
Dreamers have the right to be here. They have the right to be considered part of our community, a part of our state, a part of our country. They deserve a driver's license. So short answer, yes. Long answer, driver's licenses are the key to a lot of different daily activities that you need to do to work, to sustain your family, to sustain our community, to help boost our community. So for a dreamer who was born in the United States, not to necessarily have access to that, I think as a state legislator, I would absolutely be for ensuring that they have what they deserve and that they are able to be productive citizens and get to work and definitely help us sustain our community and our state.
Thank you. If elected, what committees would you like to serve on and why? Ms. Danielle Lee.
If elected, there are a couple of primary committees that I would like to serve on. I am a very proud woman. I am a very unapologetic owner of my rights as a woman, and one of the main committees I would want to be on would be any committee that has anything to do with sustaining my right as a woman and our rights as women. I would be open to getting more information about the different committees available to me as a state legislator, and be willing to help in any way that I can.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Finance, finance, and finance. Appropriations is the most important committee, as they are determining how every penny of every taxpayer dollar will be spent. I would like to make sure that we have someone who is out there looking for your best interest. Secondly, I would want to take the place of my opponent on the ethics committee. I think that we need some ethics reform, and the time for that is now.
Thank you. According to an audience member, today the court decided to hear Arizona Legislature versus Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission. If the court sides with the legislature, it would end independent congressional redistricting. As a candidate of the Arizona legislature, please comment on your opinion for the best outcome. And we'll start with Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
So for the best outcome, I believe that we need to have an independent districting commission. When we are in such a climate of partisanship, we need to ensure that the best interests of the Arizona voters are looked after, and that means having an independent commission that is not there to serve one party over another. The days of gerrymandering need to be over. We need to make sure that congressional districts are not drawn to favor a certain side, but that they are drawn to give populations the autonomy to choose who is their best candidate to serve us in Congress. As a legislator, I would actually be a proponent in the decision going in the way of the Independent Redistricting Commission.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee.
The first thing that comes to mind when I think of this decision is transparency. Our state and our country has a history of gerrymandering and redistricting for a few different reasons. And I think moving forward, we need to do things different. I don't think, as Kristie mentioned, that the redistricting should be in the favor of any one specific group, any one specific party. Transparency, absolutely, and there needs to be an open and honest conversation about the districts and congressional districts, legislative districts, and why we're doing what we're doing.
Thank you. What was your opinion of Governor Brewer's decision last year to expand Medicaid in Arizona? We'll start with Ms. Danielle Lee.
My opinion of her decision, don't necessarily know if she made that decision ethically for the right reasons. I believe it was the right decision. I believe that the close to 40% of Arizona's citizens who live below the poverty line are benefiting from that expansion. I absolutely think it was the right thing to do, and just kind of want to clear up my first statement. I don't necessarily think that she made that decision based on ethics and what was right. She made it on other reasons personally. But as far as Medicaid expansion is concerned, I absolutely think, like I said, it is helping Arizona's families. It is helping single mothers with children. It is helping our Arizonans long term.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Well, Medicaid is the largest source of funding for medical and health related services for people with low income in the United States. I commend Governor Brewer for making the decisions she made. I think that she put the people of Arizona before partisan politics. I commend those in the legislature who followed her suit. I think that it was an opportunity to see bipartisanship at the legislature and to see how when both parties come together, we can actually move forward legislation that helps all Arizonans. So I definitely am in agreement with her decision.
Thank you. What is an issue or position where you stand in disagreement with your own party? Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
I have to think about that one. Well, I am an independent thinker, so I don't always toe the party line. And I think that as a representative of this district that is almost a third independent, a third Republican, and slightly less Democrats, that there are going to be times where making the best decision for my constituency and for this district is not necessarily going to be in line with the Democratic Party. I am not a tax and spend Democrat. I am a fiscal conservative, and I am definitely pro-business. So sometimes those ideals may clash with some of the knee-jerk reactions that some people expect from the Democratic Party. As a fiscal conservative, I want to make sure that there are programs that we can actually afford and making sure that we have the proper financial decision made. So I definitely think those are some situations where I may not necessarily represent my party.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee.
At this point, there is not a specific issue where I disagree. Personally, I am a very a person who likes to look at things a little less analytically and a little more personally. How do things affect me and my family? How do things affect the families throughout Arizona? When decisions are made for the people in Arizona, they should be made thinking of their interests only. They should be made thinking of how is this decision going to affect this mother and her family, this husband and wife and their kids? Are the decisions that will be made as a state legislator going to affect my constituents? Now, that may or may not align with how some Democrats or some Republicans or some independents feel. But I think that when making decisions for the people of the state, priority should be how will it affect them personally? How will it affect the state long term? How is it going to affect people's daily lives? And I guess we'll have to wait and see if that belief clashes with anybody else on the legislature.
Thank you. Do you think Arizona should keep or repeal the state's gay marriage ban? We'll start with Ms. Danielle Lee.
Absolutely repeal it. Bottom line.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
I too would be in favor of repealing the gay marriage ban.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you have it? Okay. Sorry. Question, all candidates seem to be against new taxes. Do you always agree with that, or do you think that sometimes we need tax revenue to support the services and infrastructure, et cetera? And we will start with Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Great question, especially in light of the fact that some candidates want to get rid of income tax altogether. I believe that we should not get rid of the income tax. We do need taxes to pay for government services. That is not a new concept. I do not believe that we do have to raise taxes to be able to meet the needs of Arizonans. We do have loopholes that can be closed to make sure that we do pay back our schools, that we do maintain the funding of our agencies. And as a fiscal conservative, I want to shake that piggy bank, and I want to make sure that all those pennies are accounted for in each and every one of those agencies. So I, at this time, do not believe we need to raise them, but I do believe that they serve their interests.
Thank you. Ms.
Their
Danielle
purpose.
Lee.
To answer the question, I think it would be naive to say that we should never, ever raise taxes. I think when we're discussing taxes, and before we even get to that conversation, we need to talk about appropriations in our state budget and look for the fat. Look at exactly what our money is being spent on before we discuss raising taxes, if that needs to be done. But I am definitely for having the conversation and after appropriating our budget accurately and how it should be, then if it is necessary, depending on the situation, potentially, we may have to raise taxes.
Okay, thank you. When it comes to the criminal justice system, what changes would you like to see to improve public safety? We'll start with Ms. Danielle Lee.
To improve public safety in the state of Arizona specifically, I think we need to have an honest conversation about first, how we are labeling and targeting certain groups, certain individuals, how we're labeling certain people who may have made mistakes in the past. We need to reevaluate the state rules on individuals with felonies. We need to reevaluate a lot of different things, and moving forward, we need to think logically. If these people are going to discussing safety, we need to address our law enforcement. Make sure that they have the appropriate funding, the appropriate training, the appropriate information, and the support that they need to keep Arizona safe. Second to that, maybe not second to it, but in addition to that, we need to make sure that we are not, again, labeling certain groups of individuals, and we are encouraging an open dialogue when it comes to our state safety.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Two issues immediately came to mind. The first being the backlog we have of evidence testing. We need to make sure that we give the necessary resources to make sure that rape kits are actually processed in a timely manner. Otherwise, we risk having rapists on the street, not apprehended, and that has gone on for a number of years. That is a public safety issue. Secondly, I definitely believe we need to reevaluate private prisons in the state of Arizona. We currently have a system where the public taxpayer is funding private for-profit prison industry. We have inmates that are sent here from other states, primarily Alaska and Hawaii. They cost us money to house them. We also have the issue of the fact that we should not be spending public taxpayer dollars on private for-profit businesses. This has gone up every single year in the budget line, and that conflict of interest, that self-dealing, that needs to end this year.
Thank you. Name someone from the opposing party that you like and respect. We'll start with Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Opposing party that I like and respect. I would pick Senator Bob Worsley. I think that as a successful businessman, he created a business from the ground up. He does not take any outside money. He self-funds his candidate and his campaign completely. He, of course, has the personal means to be able to do that. So I would like to think that he is not beholden to any favors when he is in the state legislature. As such, I respect that.
Thank you. Ms. Danielle Lee.
I have respect for any individual from the opposite party who is willing to look past their preconceived notions about certain issues. Individuals who are willing to have open dialogue regardless of what the topic is. Individuals who are willing to look at what the people of Arizona need before their own personal benefit, their own personal needs. So anyone who is willing to do that and who is willing to go across the aisle and work with individuals from the opposite party, I have respect for, and I'm willing to work with as well.
Thank you. We will now begin the candidates' closing statements. The first closing statement will be given by Ms. Danielle Lee.
Thank you, everyone, for being here with us through this hour with me and supporting my candidacy from the beginning to the end. I would like to say that as a state legislator, I look forward to not representing special interest groups. I look forward to finding out what the core issues are with my constituents, with all individuals within our district in the state of Arizona. I want them to know, as I knock on their doors, that there is someone who wants to represent them, who wants to know, who wants to have an open conversation with them, and is willing to represent them as a state legislator. I would also like to mention that as someone who is fairly new into politics, I have a new respect for state legislators. They are the closest individuals to their constituents and are a direct line to creating legislation that can benefit them and that can create a future that is bright for them and for their families and for their children. And I would like to be that representative in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Kristie O'Brien.
Well, on November 5th, we can wake up to an LD17 where it is business as usual, and we have someone who serves special interests or self-interests, or we can wake up to a new senator who will put forward the issues and the solutions to the problems facing your interests. I truly want to serve our community regardless of whether we have a D and I or an R next to our name, because I want to put forward the people of Arizona before party politics. I look forward to using my skills as a mediator, which involves listening to the community, hearing what are their concerns, negotiating on their behalf, making sure that I am strong and fight for each and every benefit that you deserve, for every penny of your taxpayer dollars to go to taxpayer interests and not to line the pockets of those we entrust with our funds. I look forward to really making sure that our community stays vibrant, that we keep the businesses and the tech industry here, that we promote innovation, bioscience, renewable industry in our own backyard so that we can remain gainfully employed, that we can still have businesses come to Arizona, and we can still keep our communities vibrant. I look forward to the day that I can ensure that that $317 million is going to our public education, and that each and every child in this district, whether they attend public school or a private school, is getting a world-class education so that they can compete in the jobs of tomorrow. And I would urge your support. I would welcome your support, and I hope that I have earned your vote this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We thank you so much for participating in our forum. And we thank all of you who took the time to come out and inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to find out more about clean elections and the candidates that are running for office by visiting www.azcleanelections.gov. A link to the video of this debate, as well as other clean election debates, will be posted on that site within 72 hours of the scheduled debate. We also ask that you fill out the debate evaluation form you received as you entered and return it to one of our volunteers. Your feedback is important to the commission. Thank you all for coming tonight.